Ducks. What do we know about them? They like water, they eat bread, they don't write novels, and they do not care what you say about them. You could call a mum's duck a spanner and it would just look at you and say, "Got any bread?" "Brilliant bread! Amazing bread!" Ah, bless those little pond floaters. They gave us the saying, like water off a duck's back. But what is the truth behind that saying? Does water really run so easily off a duck's back? Yeah, no it does. Yeah, right off apparently. Okay, another question is, can we humans take to criticism like a duck takes to criticism? Oh yeah, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It'd be pretty cool if whatever someone says about you or what you do, it just slid right off your back like water off a fool. Sometimes that's a good skill to have, but what if you need that criticism? You know, to get better at something, like writing that novel about ducks, getting better at drawing ducks, or inventing ever richer metaphors like water going back into a duck. In that case, you want the criticism. Stop! I prefer feedback because everyone expects that criticism is going to suck, but feedback, right? That's just information. So from now on, I'm just going to use the term feedback. All right, thanks. Good sidebar. Let's say you want the feedback, but you just don't want it to hurt. This video is about how we can seize the power of the duck to help when receiving feedback from others. Yes, the power of the duck. Come with me as I share with you the 7 feathers of feedback. Duck. Feed duck. Bread! Amazing! You are not your work. Sometimes it can be pretty hard to separate ourselves from the thing that we're getting feedback on. The thing that we make, for example, might feel like it's an extension of us. It is not. Truth time. You are not the second coming. Are you sure? I'm pretty awesome. Neither are you the worst person who ever lived. Are you sure? I'm pretty awful. You belong with the rest of us, exploring the landscape like everybody else. Your sense of self-worth doesn't need to be wrapped up in what you create or do and what other people say about that. Leave your ego at the door and get to work, for duck's sake. Respond, don't react. When getting feedback, particularly challenging feedback, people can easily get defensive. I don't? Who said I do? Or take what they hear at face value and immediately start making changes. You're right. I should throw it in the skip and start again and carve my face off my head in shame. This is a reaction, and you can tell that because it's usually got some heightened emotional component to it, like massive discomfort. Instead of reacting, give yourself space to respond. Take some time to make sense of the feedback before you decide what it is you're going to do with it. Questions I found useful to help make sense of things are, what is the specific feedback point I'm hearing? What questions does this raise for me? What is the answer to this question? And if I don't know, then how could I go about answering the question? Then, what do I want to do about it? And hey, if the whole process gets a bit overwhelming, just duck out for a bit. You are getting no apology from me on that one. The majority report. It's all just opinions, whatever people say. And that's just like your opinion. Even if they're experts, it's all just an opinion, isn't it? I'm going to ignore that. Actually, I won't. Don't ever let one opinion stop or discourage you. That said, if the same opinions keep arising when people give you feedback, then it's worth keeping in mind what I call the majority report. If one person says it, they could be an outlier. If 2 people say it, that could be a coincidence. If 3 people say it, well, that could be a pattern, and you might need to look at it. Equally, they could all be wrong, and their opinion is as worthless as an old Xbox game still in its wrapper, getting rained on in a bin outside Poundland. They don't know what is in your head, and maybe neither do you. We make things because we're trying to put out into the world something that manifests an idea that we want to share with other people. The creative process is about understanding what that is and expressing it in the fullest way possible. It's about closing the gap between what's arising in us and how another person can connect with that through a piece of work. And the mystery of this process means that maybe not even we understand what this emergent idea is. Yet, being in feedback conversations can help us define the ideas and expression that we're reaching for. They don't know what's in your head, but they might be able to help you understand it. And if their feedback is not helpful in that regard, well, you can seek out other voices. You aren't beholden to anyone's opinion. You are entitled to go your own way. At any point, you have the artistic right to say, that's just how it is. What? This one's serious. I'm not mentioning ducks. Gosh. Build feedback into your creative process. In my experience, the work and the practice benefit from feedback being a continuous part of what you do. You learn and iterate quicker if you're not just saving up all the feedback for once you've spent 2 years completing your magnum opus in a vacuum. Not that kind of vacuum. Sorry, can we duck that sound level down a bit? Build in lots of small feedback loops, even early on, instead of saving everything up for the motherload of feedback at the end. Getting lots of little bits of feedback, even if it's just encouragement about what you're doing well, can really help. And it can help transform a possibly lonely experience into a shared conversation, which leads to art is a dialogue, and so is feedback. We're all just people trying our best to contribute what we have to the world. Some of us by giving what we have to the great dialogue of art. Art doesn't live on walls or between book covers. Art lives in people. No, I'm not going to suggest that art lives in ducks. That's just not true. Ducks don't make stories. Art lives in the conversations and connections that it inspires in people, and giving and receiving feedback is entering into that dialogue. Those people you invite to give feedback on your work in its early stages are the beginnings of the audience for what you're making. Treasure them as such. Help others. Feedback, at its best, is a two-way street, and feedback groups are a great place for you to offer what you can and ask for what you need. We all need help, and we all have something to give. Thanks, man. That's really... Thank you. Behind everyone who ever made anything that you love is a group of people who supported that person to help make it happen. We gain as much from giving supportive, constructive feedback to others as we do in receiving it. Go out of your way to help others, because you'll be helping yourself too. So, to recap, there is no need to be afraid of receiving feedback or critique. If you just take the 7 feathers of feedback and stick them in your cap, you are not your work. Respond, don't react. Remember the majority report. They don't know what is in your head. Build feedback into your creative practice. Art is a dialogue. Help others. Of course, all of that is only true if having some feedback is useful to you right now and you want it. If you're not interested, take it like a duck. Like with me, right? When people say, oh, your metaphors are stupid and difficult to track, I just ignore them. For me, it's just like Waterford doffs a duck's cap. Hey, would you like some immediate feedback right here and now? Look, I'm no expert, but I think you should watch these other videos I made. Just my opinion. That is just your opinion. Yeah, duck off.